Hello everybody, this is John from Day 1, and this is part 1 of 3 of our Clubbell Swing tutorial series. And in this video installment, what we're going to do is take a look at structure. So we're pulling it outside of the movement and the breathing per se, and we're really isolating the structural components. So we're going to take a look at silverback position in a modified version. And what we found through our Clubbell 101 training course here locally is that we can tend to shorten the learning curve on this movement by first working on structure and structure alone, and not looking at the movement pattern and not looking at the breathing patterns within the exertion and the movement itself. When we look at it much like an asana, people tend to catch on and groove in much more quickly when we move up to the movement pattern itself. It's one less thing for them to concentrate and worry about because it's integrated and it's there. And what you'll find is once you've locked in structure from the initial position, silverback, that structure maintains throughout the movement once you add in movement, okay? You never compromise or stray away from that structure. Those components are still there and it's still integrated. So again, once we can work it statically for this particular exercise, we find that the learning curve is sped up. Even for guys and gals coming from kettlebell swing or kettlebell lifting, there's similarities, but it's a different tool and it is a different technique. And some of the compensations or over specializations you build from kettlebell swinging tend to become a hindrance in clubbell swinging. So we'll discuss that a little bit as well. So again, first thing we're looking at is structure. Here we go. Like many clubbell exercises, the clubbell swing begins in silverback position. So we begin silverback position by bringing our feet shoulder width apart. So not way out here, not close together, roughly shoulder width apart. Toes are going to drive forward, so we really don't want to toe out. You want to try to bring those toes in, they fall right underneath your knees. Approach the clubbell, spine is nice and long. We're going to sit back through the hips, keeping the spine nice and long. So what does this feel like? This will load your rear, okay? Load the hammies just a little bit. It's going to load the thighs just a little bit. What this doesn't feel like is a loading of the knees or a loading of the lower back. So we don't want a loading of the knees by dropping forward. And you don't want a loading of the lower back by rounding off, okay? Again, nice and long crown, sitting back through the hips to load the rear, which does not load the lower back, engages the thighs, okay? And we're not pitching forward to load the knees. Shoulders fall down into pack, clubs out right in front. In this case, our long arm is going to be our right arm, our short arm is going to be our left arm. So, left hand grabs low down towards the knob. Triceps squeeze to lock out the arm. So arm lock here with the elbow pit rotating forward, squeeze of the triceps. Shoulder stays back and down so you engage your lats like you're doing a pull-up. Right arm comes on top, same thing. Now, going higher with the long arm is going to find you sitting back a little bit lower in this position. Now the sitting lower isn't a rounding forward, it's just a sitting deeper into that same hip pitch. Okay, loading the glutes even more, loading the thighs even more. This causes you to push with a little bit more oomph or force or effort through midfoot to the ground to stabilize here. All right, still squeezing the tricep to rotate that elbow pit forward and locking down the lat to pull your shoulder down at the lock. Crown is nice and long. Okay, and your gaze is looking up through your brow ridge. So we maintain this position. All right, so now just holding this for time, up to a minute, is very similar to holding a chair pose, all right, yoga, asana. Hip mobility might be a bit of an issue here, and that's okay. Again, you're not looking for discomfort in the lower back or discomfort in the knees. Usually means you're breaking your spine or dipping forward and sitting forward. Those triceps stay squeezed and locked out. The lats stay locked down to pull the shoulder back and down. One thing you want to be cautious of is how far out the club is, okay? This thing doesn't need to be 3 feet out in front of you, all right? You can start by sitting back. It's too long, right, for me to grab without sitting lower. Sitting lower is still too long, okay? What some people will do is reach out for it and round over. Don't do that. Just bring the club closer in front of you. Once you have it locked in, you can move the club forward more to sit down lower or backwards more to come up a little bit higher. Spine is nice and long. Okay, so again, we're holding this for time. Okay, so for our second half of our look at structure with regards to the Clubbell Swing, We're going to look at a modified version of silverback position. Really what this is the back position of the clubbell swing. And this is where we start to see a big difference between kettlebell swinging and clubbell swinging. The profile of the clubbell, the tool, allows us for a deeper sit back, okay? Allows us to load the leg drive a lot more, which allows for a more powerful retranslation of force coming out of it, okay? So this is one of the key differences in the swing between the clubbell and the kettlebell. So we're going to start this by getting in the silverback position, and you've got the structural cues from the first half of the exercise. Okay, now from here, to get in back position, instead of hiking back, okay, we find sometimes people hike back, they tend to break their structure and round over. So instead of hiking it back from this position, we're going to come forward, okay, and find your comfort level. All right, the more forward you feel as though you can get, the better. You'll find from here, it's going to want to shift the weight for a lot of people from midfoot to heel or to the rear. And what that has to do is with some limitations from the lower back all the way down. So just focus still on midfoot drive, sitting back through the hips. You really have to, much more now, lock down the shoulders by squeezing the lats, okay? Because the chest or anteriorly is going to want to rotate you forward more. All right, squeeze those triceps to lock forward. Lift your heart a little bit more here. Spine nice and long. Looking through your brow ridge. Okay, and you're going to hold that for time as well, up to a minute. Once you got that in, cycle through your checkpoints or your structural components.